as I said, my name is Altus. My Zoom name is changed a bit differently. That's actually my full name, but I go by Altus. As you said, I'm originally from South Africa. I did sugar between 2017 and 2018, which is not that long ago, but it feels much longer ago with COVID. Yeah, so we had a cool project, which I can quickly show you a bit about, and then I have a few tips that I would like to give you. And obviously, if there are any questions, this is not about me, this is about you. So please feel free to interrupt me and ask me questions, and yeah, whatever you want to ask me, and then I'll also give you my email if you have any questions. You're very welcome to contact me. Sweet. So we are recording. Let me quickly share my screen. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
All right, sweet. Yes, so I won't go through everything in super much detail because we don't have that much time. But in short, we were a team from TU Munich and from St. Gallen. We did it with Ledvans. They're in Munich or close to Munich. And the project was about designing human-centric lighting. So this is basically lighting that matches your time of day. So it's sort of an understated like importance, the effect that light has on our like daily clocks and so forth. So for example, if you think about like iSaver mode or things like that on a Mac or on a PC or on a phone or whatever, it's basically to protect you from the adverse effects that artificial light has on you. So for example, in the morning you need blue light, at the noon you need sort of neutral light, and in the evening you need this warm yellow light. So our challenge was how might we design human-centric lighting for elderly people to support them within their own homes, because elderly people spend a lot of time at home, and they're especially affected by this bad artificial lighting. So the approach, well, I think by now, I hope. And then we basically did it in a few phases. So first, our user research, we did some competitor analysis, some semi-structured interviewing, and then some prototyping, which you'll do a lot of. We had some insights, which I won't go into much detail. We then did personas and mood boards to basically segment our user groups. And then an interesting insight for us was basically the user journey. So we developed this model of saying, why would people use the lighting? How can they access it? And then how do they actually use it day to day? So sort of structuring it in a way like that. And then, yeah, as I said, the motivation, access, and usage. Then we prototyped a lot. So there you see me in one of our more crazy prototypes. Then we did a conjoint analysis, which is a statistical analysis of the features needed. This is us with a corporate partner, for example, doing workshops with them, trying to synthesize the insights. And then at the end, we basically developed a prototype focusing on health branding. So positioning light as something sexy and something healthy, so sort of organic light. Having it easily installed, and then also controlling the extent of automation. So this was our final prototypes, the video, and then this is what the final, for example, packaging looked like. And then you can see basically the light matching to the light cycle automatically. And yeah, and then this is us at the end, most of the team. So yeah, from my side, some learnings that we had. I think the first one that I picked up was actually to give good feedback. So it's very easy to sit in a meeting and just say, yeah, it sounds good. But like if everything sounded good, then nothing would improve ever. So it's very important to actually, it may sound stupid, but like actually read the documentation, do your part, and actually give constructive feedback on what you think. I think especially working virtually. So I mean, we did our project before COVID, but especially yeah, we had some virtual meetings obviously as well, since we were not in the same city as most of you would not be anyway. And it's very easy to sit in a video meeting especially and say, oh, okay, it sounds good, or just like give a thumbs up or something. But that doesn't really bring you any further. So that was my first learning, and I think that's very, very important. The second one is to sort out any issues early. We had one team member, he's not on this picture because he was kicked out. So if you have team members who are not doing their part, both content wise and sort of like attitude wise, like showing up late and things like that, I think it's important to sort that out early. We, I think, made the mistake of like tolerating it for a bit too long, and then it was just before the final kickoff that it was actually like kicked out of the team. So I think make sure to actually do that early. And then the last one I would say is manage your expectations as well early, both internally. So we were a team from, as I said, to Munich and St. Gallen. So we had a mix of engineers and business students, and everybody sort of has their own. Even within your internal university team, you have different expectations of what you want to achieve. So, for example, normally the engineers want to build cool stuff. We had an industrial designer, so they're more focused on sort of the like the usability and the aesthetics of what is developed. And then like the management students might be more interested in the business case or like the customer research, for example. And we had some like internal discussions and sometimes some conflict on what everybody actually wants to get out of the project, because it's important for you, in addition to what the corporate partner gets, also for you to get something valuable out of the year that you'll spend on this, because you spend a lot of time on this, and to actually get something valuable out for you is important. But I think just make sure to manage those expectations early on in the project. And then last and obviously not least, for the corporate partner, also regular communication with them, and also to manage their expectations, I think is very important. So we had bi-weekly, I think we had, if I remember correctly, we had weekly check-ins, and then bi-weekly check-ins for more longer discussions and actually sort of content stuff. And then about every 6 weeks, we actually did an on-site visit with them, to run through what we found, what their expectations are, what the next steps would be, and so on. So I think having a structured way of actually doing that is helpful, because it also sort of forces you and motivates you to work towards something, and to discuss interim progress with them. So yeah, that's what I have for you from my side. Any questions, and any things that you want to find out or what I can elaborate on, please ask me. Yeah, Alexander.
Yeah, thank you. How did you divide the tasks in the group? Like, do you remember still who was, I don't know, presenter, coordinator?
Yeah, so once again, that I think depends on what your expectations are and like and what you want to get out of it. Like at least for me personally, I enjoy speaking with people and doing presentations and stuff. So for example, the presenting of the project, I did most of the presentations, not because I wanted to get the shine or anything, but I generally enjoy doing that. And for other people in the group, they don't enjoy speaking in front of people. So I mean, you have to find something that works for most of you. And then in terms of the concrete tasks, like every week, it's a good question. I think it's important to also split it fairly, like among the teams. Like you always have some weeks where, you know, a university has exams and others not. So then you're sort of, you have to be flexible in that sense as well. But it is important to actually, like I think if you meet, for example, every week or like every second week, say concretely what you will be responsible for. And that is mainly based on the content that you want to work on. So like with your skill set, what you can contribute, and then we divided it based on that.
Thank you.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Anyone else? Oh, I see this. Cool. Yeah, the question is, why did you decide to undertake a sugar project as part of your study? Yeah, that's a cool question. To be honest, I didn't know about it. I just saw a poster one day on campus. I was studying for exams, and then it said like, "Do you want to go to Stanford?" I'm like, "Yes, I want to go to Stanford." Um, and then I applied, and yeah, I got in. But I think, like, except for that, when I actually learned more about what it is, and I think especially learning the mindset of design thinking is actually like failing fast and failing forward. That's something very, very helpful, which I found and which I applied even like after the project, to actually do quick iterations. Before I did the project, it was not something that I really did that much. And again, as I learned about the project, and what design thinking is about, that really interested me and sort of motivated me more to become involved in like a project. So yeah, I think that actually answers the second question as well. Anybody else?
Yes, I have another question. So thanks for the insights, super interesting. And you talked a bit about your the problems that you had in the team. What were the hardest challenges personally for yourself during the whole process?
I think for me personally, it was actually sort of managing the other team members. So like especially with the person that dropped out, there was a lot of tension at one point, like with the team, and then people can get very, very focused on like what they want to have, without taking sort of the team's view into consideration. So at least from my perspective, I sort of ended up as the mediator, which is both a good and a bad situation to be in. So for me, that was a bit of a challenge actually, managing that. Yeah. A second, I think more general one is actually just the workload of the project. So like at some points in the project, it gets like quite intense in terms of things that you have to prepare, and things that you have to do. So general time management is also very, very helpful. Like a very general tip, but a very helpful one, I think, or I hope. So yeah. Yeah, so the next question is, can you elaborate on the desk research that you did and any tips that you have for it? Yeah, sure. So the desk research, what we mainly did, if I can quickly go down here again. So yeah, it is basically the competitor analysis, so mapping the design space. So I think what is maybe useful here is actually splitting it into industry analysis, and then also like an academic analysis to a lesser extent, because it's not like a master thesis you're writing. It's a like it's a practical project, but nevertheless getting sort of the trends and insights, maybe just sort of a high level like overview of like where the trends are going, and where the if you do like a basic search on Scopus or Web of Science or whatever, that may also be helpful. And then for the competitor analysis, especially, so getting your benchmarks and then trying to abstract that to a level of features and things that they want to address. So basically, like depending on your project, grouping it by, for example, geographical reach. So like in which regions do which people use which products, which features do they have, what are the pricing points. So trying to basically define attributes and characteristics of your benchmarks, and trying to group that in a way that might be sensible. That very much depends on your challenge, but I think trying to actually like sitting down for like 50 minutes and saying, okay, what do we want to achieve? What are the different things that the competitor, that the corporate partner is looking for, and how can we map our findings according to like those needs? I think is helpful, and a productive way to approach it. Anything else?
Maybe more about the project as well. How did you do the testing phase, and did you also measure outcomes or like effects on the health of the elderly people, or yeah, how did you do the testing in general?
Yeah, sure. So no, we didn't get to the health part actually. That is something quite difficult to measure, and wasn't really within the scope of our project. What we did was, yeah, so we tested mainly like in terms of like concrete results, was in this conjoint analysis. So this is basically, as I said earlier, if you do your desk research, basically mapping out the features. So we identified features early on, which we then validated during interviews, and then built into this conjoint analysis. So for example, people's need for buying something sustainable, or people's need for personalization, and things like that. And of course the price as well. And then once we had a better idea of what the product should look like, we then did a conjoint analysis, which basically lists the different features, and then the person or the tester selects their most preferred option, and then afterwards you can actually see the statistical analysis of which combinations of products do people prefer. So we did this with, I think it was 270 people, so like a lot of people. This was just in a conjoint analysis. And then yeah, we also tested this with like people doing interviews and actual prototype testing, but to get a feel of something concrete, we tested this in this way. Cool. Yeah, next question is, can you share about the design thinking methodologies you used? Yeah, so if you take a look at the cycle, so yeah, for the macro cycle, first look like this. So you have design space exploration, a critical function where you determine the concrete needs, that again I think matches with the characteristics that you identify, to focus on, or to at least research. Then you have all the crazy prototypes during the dark horse phase. Then you have something funky, which is interesting, but not as way out as the dark horse one. Then functional, then almost finished, and then you have your final one. So I think it's helpful to actually split it into this diverging and converging fields. So like first going wide and then narrowing in. And what I think is especially important is the microcycle. So as I said, also my personal learning to do quick iterations of meeting and of basically yeah, like quick iterations of what you found, what worked, what didn't, and then trying to iterate as fast as possible so to not lose time and actually do something productive. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. All right. Any more questions? The link to the desk research, I have to see if I still have access to it. I'm not sure because I think we handed that over to the corporate partner. So I can see, and then I can let you know. I'll also quickly give you my email. Yeah, that's me. If you have any questions, just feel free to pop me a mail. Yeah, Alexander.
How was your final presentation? Like, did you get? How was the feedback from the company and stuff?
Good. Yeah, I can also send you the link to the final one if you want to take a look. It's actually on this page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will share this with you. there you go. And then also maybe I'll this was the final solution, so more of a sort of a marketing or like a promo overview of what we developed or suggested. Yeah, so the feedback from the company was good. I think so. What I said earlier on about like what you want to get out of the project, like for them at least, they had internal competencies to actually build the product. So what they were interested, in from our side was not really technically what was developed, but more actually the market and the customer insights. And that is something that they don't have the capacity internally to do. So from that point of view, yeah, we had some very good feedback from them, actually, to what to focus on and sort of what to place their own internal engineering and design teams on. So the prototype as is, as far as I know, wasn't, yeah, like, I mean, the technical stuff, if you take a look at the prototype, this is not something that is market ready. But like for them, at least, the background and why we actually developed what we developed was very helpful, and we got good feedback on that.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Yeah, sweet. Any more questions?
I can ask one if there aren't others on the tip of anyone's tongue. What would you do differently in hindsight? So you sort of touched upon a couple of things, but
yeah,
if you were to do sugar again, now you know, with the wisdom of hindsight, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I think it aligns with what I said earlier, like aligning the expectations better earlier on in the project, because at the end, internally and like both with the company, so like from our side, at least from Tim's side, I mean, like, it's cool to build like cool stuff, but as I just said, the company is not necessarily interested in your physical prototype, but actually maybe more about the insights leading to the prototype. So I think it's important to actually manage those expectations and what the needs are of all the parties very early on in the project. So that's something I would definitely like consider. Yeah,
how would you do that? How would you make that really clear?
That's not an easy thing to do. So it's a good question. I think it's very helpful to like literally sit and say, like, what are your expectations of the project, and like what do you want to learn in the project, and like what do you want to spend your time on in the project, because we didn't do that. It might not be the perfect solution, and you always like grow and find stuff that is more interesting or less interesting, but actually sitting concretely and saying, like, this is what I want to work on, I think is very helpful. And I would recommend every team to do that.